Hold on.
Hey everybody, welcome to this amazing Facebook Live Zoom. I'm Rick Whitmore, and I'm just about to introduce you to the panel in just a minute. But we are just so excited to be here, and we've got so many people on this panel that have just a plethora of experience that it's mind-blowing. And we are here to talk about how we can best embrace our LGBTQ plus students in our schools throughout, not only in South Carolina, but throughout the country. So let's go ahead and get started. This is going to be our first in a series of roundtables. I consider this a roundtable discussion. So this discussion, we will have some guiding questions. They may lead certain ways, but it's very, very informal. And our goal, I'm going to show you our goals in just a couple of minutes, is to how we can support our students the best. So let's get started. So first of all, I want to go ahead and establish that, again, like I said, this is just a discussion. We're all going to practice mutual respect. That's what we say as teachers. And I'm going to help as a facilitator and as a person that's leading this discussion. I'm going to be, I may have to cut you off sometimes. It just depends. We want to keep on time. I don't know what this discussion is going to take us. That's the exciting part. So that's my role. I am certainly not the main expert here. Like I told the panel before we went live, that I think my main expertise is that I am a gay man, and that's where it stops. No, just kidding. But hopefully we can come up with some great ideas to help teachers at home watching as well, to help support their students. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself formally, and then I'll ask the panel to introduce themselves as well. So again, I'm Rick Whitmore, and I've been teaching for 17 plus years. Before that, I was a restaurant manager, and I switched careers. It was the best decision of my life. And I have been, I'm also the GSA advisor for my high school. That's Gay Straight Alliance, or some schools call it a Gender and Sexuality Alliance. It just depends on the school. Yes, and so is Jamie as well. And you'll be here in just a minute. I am National Board Certified. I am a South Carolina honor roll teacher for 2021. And it's been, let's see, what else can I add? And why am I here? I'm here to make sure to help change the cultures of our schools so that they're more accepting to the LGBT plus community. And I go by he, him, his. So Jed?
I'm up first, huh?
Yes,
hey,
sir.
Everybody. Hey, everybody. My name is Jed Dairyberry. That's dairy like a cow, berry like a fruit. You can call me Fruity Cow if you want to. That's definitely applicable, and especially in this wonderful safe space that we're in. I'm an educator of 20 years. I taught first and second and third grade for 13 years before I moved into full-time professional development work and higher ed. I currently teach 3 courses in the USC system. And I'm also an author and illustrator, published 2 books in the last year for teachers. You can Google me and find out more about that. That's not what we're here for. Why am I here? Rick, that's a great question, because I know that there are students out there who need to see people like us. And there are teachers out there who need to see people like us. Representation matters. And I hope you hear that 1,000 times today. We're not here to we're not here to convert anybody to be gay, but hey, if you are, let us know. We'll put you in the family like everybody else. Yeah, anyway, little humor there. Haha. Let's see, do I pass it on to somebody else? Can I just pick somebody, or is there an order?
Sure. You know, as a teacher, I have an agenda, but you just go ahead, go for it.
Well, I just can't wait to hear from Joanne. I mean, Joanne, the rap is everything to me. Take it away.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joanne Stevenson Jenkins, and I'm just amazed at the opportunity to even be here. Anytime that we can change the way our brain works when we get into wonderful new spaces, sign me up. And one of the things, and so I'm here as a friend. Rick called. I do a lot of work here in Charlotte along social justice, but it's probably more peacekeeping and helping people to resolve their differences across a variety of lines. I had the pleasure of being on the board of a group that was here called Out Charlotte. That was about gay cultural events, and we opened up the LGBT Community Center. Went through a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, going through different identity changes, if you all know what I mean. You know, as the letters started battling up against each other, you get my drift, right? And today I work with a wonderful group. Well, I'm retired. I was a school teacher. I taught at Central Piedmont, did some other things out at UNCC, loved being in CMS, working with another one of our speakers tonight. And I work with a group now called Reimagining the Reimagining America Project. And it's about truth, telling, reconciliation, and healing. And I think that this is the perfect place to be. And so from my experience, and I believe where my heart is tonight, I'll probably be speaking about the needs of children of color who are going through this. I'm not eliminating anyone else, but just some of their extraordinary burdens that are already added on to an overburdened life. And so I'm going to give the mic over to Jamie.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jamie Honke. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I am from Nebraska, so I'm kind of an outsider in that regard. I know Rick through Facebook and through teaching Spanish. We've kind of really connected that way. And then we collaborated when COVID closed schools. We had Rick and I had collaborative GSA meetings. We had one or two. I stole his idea to have GSA on Zoom since we couldn't meet in person. I'm a Spanish teacher in Nebraska. I won the 2017 Nebraska Spanish Teacher of the Year Award. And then recently the outstanding or the Spirit of Education Award for my work with our Gender Sexuality Alliance and creating an atmosphere of mindfulness in our schools. My primary role as the GSA sponsor is to advocate and support our students within our school district and our community. And we recently had a mantra added to our school district of increasing inclusive communities. So as a Spanish teacher who predominantly teaches Latino youth and also as our GSA sponsor, my core mission right now is to make sure the word inclusive actually means inclusive. And so I'll share some experiences about my work with GSA and my school district. I'm going to pass the torch to Cindy.
Cindy, who can't unmute. Hi, everybody. I'm so honored to be here with these beautiful people. Look out, I might start crying. She, her pronouns. I'm a bisexual woman. I taught for about 17 years before transitioning to becoming a certified teen life coach. So my work now is one-on-one with kids, supporting mental health needs in a very youth-driven way. My work is about the kids. It's not about me. It's not about the parents. It is about the kids. I'm sure that everybody who is here is well aware of the sort of the crisis state in America with supporting the needs of mental health and kids, as well as the suicide rates for LGBTQ plus kids. So a large percentage of the kids that I work with are gay and are trans, with varying levels of acceptance and whether or not they're even out to their families. So there's a lot of it's really important work. Again, like tier warning, I'm just really honored to be here. So yeah, that's what I got.
Thank you. Do you want to pass it on to somebody?
Roy.
Thank you, Cindy. Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be here tonight. I must admit, I was most excited about learning from you guys, from people like Joanne and all of her experience and her wisdom, and my good friends, Corey and Cindy, and the people that I'm meeting tonight. who I know that Rick handpicked, and you must be wonderful people. So I'm happy to say that I am married to Rick for the last 26 years, almost. And I can honestly say that it has been 26 years of happiness. And our friend Corey has known us for that entire time. We've done lots of things together, shared lots of good times, and so happy that he's here as well. I am a licensed clinical social worker here in North Carolina since the early 90s. I've done hospital social work as well as work with the Department of Social Services. And I've had the pleasure of working for Charlotte-Mecklenburg School District for the last 22 years. And at least half of that has been with middle school students. And my hair was all black before that started, but now it's a whole lot more gray. But I must say I've enjoyed it. And again, looking forward to sharing and learning from you guys.
Last but not, thank you, Roy.
I'd like to pass the torch to our very good friend, Corey McKnight.
Hello, good evening, everyone. So I've had like several careers, and I'm grateful for all of the experiences I've had. So I started off as an engineer. I worked in engineering for 9 years, and I worked in a branch of systems engineering called maintainability and reliability engineer. And so my training has been to look at systems, to not only solve problems, but to design problems out of the systems. After engineering, I embarked on a career in education in North Carolina. So for 7 years, I worked at Central Piedmont Community College, but I worked with a program for high school students. So I taught low income and first generation high school students. I taught math, SAT prep, and critical thinking skills. So, and now I am back home in Miami Beach, Florida, where I am a public relations professional. And so my focus is government, media, and community relations. And here in South Florida, it's a very interesting place. It's almost not like the US because it's so diverse and so different. And so my work really consists of coalition building and making sure that communities understand what's going on around them and that they're able to, that everyone gets along. And so I'm really looking forward to the discussion tonight to share my experiences and also to learn from the panel. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Corey. You guys, amazing to see those at home. You can just see what an amazing group this is. So if I say amazing one more time, right? So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. Hopefully I will share the right screen with you. 1 second here. My mouse is acting up a little bit. There we go. Okay, so I just wanted to, oh gosh. Okay, can y'all see that okay? Could you guys give me a thumbs up? Can you see that okay? All right, thank you. Yes, my mouse is acting weird. But anyway, so for everyone to kind of get a better idea of why we're here, we basically been talking about that for the past 10 minutes or so, but you see the first bullet is our purpose, right? And that is for this roundtable to help us educators better serve our LGBTQ plus students by promoting awareness and a better understanding of their unique circumstances and needs. And let's focus in on their unique circumstances and needs. And then the second one, I wanted to make sure we understand the goal of this. What's our goal? And that's to transform the culture in our schools so that the LGBTQ plus students They experience unconditional acceptance by their teachers, administrators, and peers. And we've got a lot to talk about. What does LGBTQ plus stand for? So we assume everyone just knows. And so we've got L for lesbian, G for gay, B for bisexual, T for transgender. Now, when I first came out, when I was 26 years old, it was LGBT. And then later, somewhere between then and now, we added a Q, queer and questioning. And there's a lot of people that define queer in all different kinds of ways, but basically you're not straight. And questioning is you question your sexuality. And then there's the plus. And that, I think a lot of us still wonder sometimes, and we're trying to, that's kind of why if you look at the flag, the Progress Pride flag up here in the left-hand corner, that's the plus. So we want to make sure everyone's included. That's part of the plus. So I'm going to just click right there and bring us to just a quick article. So come up here. This is just a few of the plus, right? So we've got, I have students that identify as pansexual, and I won't go through all the definitions. I have students that identify as, actually, I don't have students that identify as asexual, but asexual. I have several students in my GSA club that are straight allies. Those that are watching at home may be one of them. We have intersex. Side gender. Gender fluid. Those are just a few. I just want to highlight a few. So when we see the plus, we're not wondering, it gives you a better idea of what that means. Now, I wanted to kind of jumpstart our talk with some statistics. Of course, we're not going to go through all of these, but this is a news article from last year. 40% of LGBTQ youth seriously considered suicide in the past year, a survey finds. 40%. By the way, that was me in high school. I was in that percentage. There's something called the Trevor Project, and it goes on for many, many pages, but of course, we're not going to do that. I'm just going to kind of highlight some areas here. Of course, this mimics our parents mimics the 40% that we just saw in the NBC article, 42%. This is from this year. This is from 2021. Let's see here. Let's look at the 70%. Excuse me. 70% of youth stated that their mental health was poor most of the time or always during COVID. 48% of youth reported they wanted counseling from a mental health professional, but were unable to receive it in the past year. And this is a survey of students throughout the country, right? These are from students throughout the country. 30% of youth experienced food insecurities. That gets more into economics. 75% of LGBTQ youth reported that they had experienced discrimination based on their sexual orientation or gender identity at least once in their lifetime. Right? Just want to highlight a couple of those statistics. Let's go on to what's an organization called GLSEN. This is from 2 years ago. And I'm going to go to a certain page and just kind of highlight some things there. Close to 57% of LGBTQ students were harassed or assaulted or insulted in school did not report the incident. And we know that happens with the non-LGBTQ students. So imagine the rate for our LGBTQ plus students. 60% or 61% close to students who did report an incident said that school staff did nothing in response or told the student to ignore it. I've actually seen that happen before. Let's see here. 23% have been prevented from choosing their own names and pronouns. I've had students in my GSA club experience that. And the list goes on. What really stood out for me, see if I can find that, was, gosh, I'm not sure quite where that is, but I'm going to just go ahead and say it out here if I can't find it. There's a statistic in there that for transgender students, when they're at home, if they are not addressed by the name that they feel like their chosen name, and addressed by whether they want to be he, his, her, or hers at home, they're 3 times more likely to attempt suicide. So that's very telling that we must accept our students. Based on that, on some of those quick statistics, and we all, those on the panel are really familiar with those grave statistics. These are the questions I want to address. We all want to address, I should say. What's something new that you learned from that slide? Like basically from the statistics about the LGBTQ students are 3 times more likely to attempt suicide when they're not addressed by their chosen name at home. The high percentage of attempted suicides overall. What surprised you? What are you bothered by? Next question we'll address is, how do we make ourselves more approachable to the LGBTQ plus students? Number 3 is, how should we respond to faculty, staff, and students who feel negatively about LGBTQ plus people? Number 4, how can we get faculty, staff, and students to be more open-minded about LGBTQ plus people? 3 and 4 are somewhat similar. Number 5, how can we start a GSA, Gay Straight Alliance, or Gender and Sexuality Alliance club at our schools? And 6, what are some resources that can support us in transforming our school's culture? And I will go back to those, but the first question when I'm done with these slides is when I'm going to ask the panel to address is, what is something that you learned in the presentation? Whether you learned it or not, what surprised you, whether it surprised you or not, what could you add to that, the statistics, as far as your opinion and input? So let's get out of there. We'll talk about that later. So I can tell you, like I said before, as far as the statistics, my biggest surprise from the statistics was that my students that want to be called he, him, or her, he, him, or his, or her, or she, her, or hers, it's confusing for me. But I always want to make sure I address them that way. And just before we went on live, I know Cindy mentioned something about how important it is for our students. So does anyone want to take it from here? Jamie?
So I also, that resonates with me about our trans and also our gender fluid non-binary students. I've noticed in my school over the last few years, there's been an increase in more students seeking representation for gender fluid non-binary pronouns, but also it struck me I wasn't surprised by the number, but it struck me that there is actually a statistic now of students reporting that they attempt to report and nothing happens, or they feel they can't report. Because when I speak with teachers about this topic in my own community, sometimes the feedback I get is, well, why didn't they say something? And it's eye-opening to see that there's actually reporting that says students don't feel safe enough to report an incident because they don't think they're going to be supported by the school system. And that's pretty sad, but I'm glad that it's actually visible, that you can see it and digest it.
Okay.
Rick, do you know if this leads into kind of something that surprises me. Do we have any South Carolina specific numbers from those organizations, or is it all national percentiles? And the reason
well, to answer your question, I don't know. they were just national, but I will definitely look in to see if we can.
Well, I would be interested to see that because I guarantee you the number of suicides is much higher, or attempted suicides or suicide considerations is much higher here in our state because of exactly what Jamie said, is that people are afraid here in our state. Is because we've built this culture and climate that it does not accept, that it does not tolerate, that it does not provide students with a path. That's why things like this are so important, that if tonight, if we reach 2 teachers that tomorrow maybe have an open eye and an open ear that can save a life of a child, then it's worth our time tonight. And kudos to the SCEA for leading this conversation. There's not enough of this going on in our state. I've been sounding this gong for years on Twitter, and I'm just excited that we're talking about it. But I would gather to say, I'm looking at the Facebook comments, and a lot of people are discussing they're shocked at these statistics. I promise you, South Carolina is much, much higher than everything that you've seen, because these statistics are taken in cities where LGBTQ communities are safe. It took in San Francisco and San Diego and New York City and Chicago and the bigger cities that we think are these safe havens. It took in all of their people too. If you go to the southern Bible Belt states that have preached hate from their pulpits for years and years, our statistics are much, much higher. So it's, our awareness is even more important.
That's such a great point. Such a great point. And I want to touch upon that when you said about students. Wanting to, or looking. I lost my train of thought. Specifically, South Carolina and the South having a hard time. Here it comes. It's coming back. But Corey and I were talking about that, I guess yesterday, about how when I had a student yesterday comment on a former student comment on a Facebook post of mine about a poster promoting our GSA meeting being taken down. And I had taken it off, but the student had mentioned, well, why do you all need to have that club? We don't have a club for the people who are attracted to, or something like to that effect. And Corey made a good point. He said that how he would react to
prom.
Right.
It's called the prom.
And Corey said, I'm sorry, Corey, I'm speaking for you. He's like, be thankful you don't have to have that. Be thankful you don't have to have a club. Right, Corey?
Oh, you're right. And so the statistics didn't surprise me. Like, I know that there is, discrimination against, LGBTQ, students at a young age. And so I'm not surprised. So it's not really new, but I'm bothered that one, people, including adults, feel that it's okay to discriminate against children. So I'm bothered by that. That's still going on, right? And I'm also bothered that it's tolerated, right? Like it's not socially acceptable to discriminate against, physically challenged, but it is for the LGBT community from adults in places of power. And so I think it bothers me that it's still happening now, right? That it ever happened at all, and that it's still happening now, and that too many people feel that it's okay.
So, and thank you. So on that note, I'm going to just move ahead to our next question, which kind of is a great way to follow up on this, is how do we make ourselves more approachable? How do we make ourselves as educators more approachable to LGBTQ plus students? Joanne? Sorry, we'll get you next.
I'd like to suggest that the way we make ourselves more approachable is we look at our own issues of identity. You asked each of us to identify ourselves, to introduce ourselves, and whether we did it consciously or not, but we probably unfolded to our audience what's important to us, in light of this conversation or any other conversation. And so to me, if adults are not doing their own work about identity, then they are modeling confusion to the students that are in their classrooms. And that's just one of the things that we model, unfortunately. You know what I'm saying? I mean, all you gotta do is follow your kids around, and your worst thing that you ever say is coming out of their mouth, you follow? But so when I was looking at the statistics, and it also occurred to me with what Cindy said about what's going on with pandemic, this is my first one that I can recall. I can imagine that things are even worse because of isolation. So when you start layering these things on, and one of the things I'm concerned about right now, I'll speak it to real time, is our own trusted teachers are overburdened with doing everything else that they're doing right now. I got to prepare a curriculum for live, and then I got to do something over here for the ones on camera. And then I got to check in back and forth between that. I just, and I think that there's like a Pollyanna response to everything. That's like, I'm handling it. I'm okay. And I don't believe that's true. I just don't believe it's true. And so therefore, whatever hierarchy of suffering that's going on underneath, I just don't think our adults can have the time for it. But I also think about how important it is about how we deal with our own identities. You got it? Like, just think of someone, I'm just going to throw out something like some peers that you all have, that they fall in love, madly in love, and they're going to get married, and now it's the name change thing, or who are they going to be, or what's their new title, and how much fun they have with that without even thinking about how that affects other people around them. And I just wanted to say that we give children, youth, permission to be who they are by working on our stuff.
Perfect. Jamie, I think Roy, then Jamie.
Yeah. I'd like to sort of add to what Joanne has already said about modeling, and sort of equate it to what you've done at your school. You came in as a person who is caring and devoted to your students, and those students who needed to be able to have a place to come that felt safe came to you, and you were able to set that up and provide an environment for those kids who in the past haven't had it there. I work in a middle school, and I haven't been able to do the things that you've done, but my way of contributing is modeling my relationship with you. I'm able to talk about our life and how much we enjoy it, and how it's really no different from any other couple. We have jobs that we go to. The one difference is we've had to create our own families beyond our biological families that support us. And I believe that through our behavior, I had a behavior management technician talk to me today about a child who was sort of concerned that his parents were doing things that were homophobic and racist at home, and that he was able to talk to that student in a way that was supportive. And it came from a person that, I don't believe that without having been exposed to it through our student services department at school, would have been able to handle it the way he handled it. But he handled it very graciously and very supportively. And this is a heterosexual Black male. And we must admit that sometimes we have a hard time talking about sexuality and being supportive of things that are different. But I was just extremely proud of the way this person handled himself in that particular situation. And what we do by setting examples and modeling it goes a long way. May not always feel like it, but it does.
Awesome, Jamie.
I love the ideas that are being presented here. I think how we enter the classroom environment says a lot if we're taking, if we can actually see the bars of the cage, that if we're projecting a heteronormative space or if we're projecting an inclusive space, that makes a big difference. And there was a question in the comments that kind of asks kind of what we're talking about right now, which is if you have a student who you think or you're making an assumption about might not identify with what they were assigned at birth, or you get a vibe. I've encountered this lots of times, where teachers will be confused as to how to make a safe space for that student. And one thing, I always go in the first day and I share my pronouns and I ask what students' pronouns are. I could do that in a private survey, or I could have them write it on a card. Some students will not put the same pronouns in public as they will on a piece of paper. And I don't say, what are your preferred pronouns? Because it's not a preference. It's what are your pronouns? And then there's also levels of, are your pronouns, do you want me to use these pronouns with your friends, your classmates, your teachers, your family? What level of confidentiality are your pronouns? Because that can vary depending on the student. But sometimes students don't realize that we are approachable teachers, even if we think we're approachable teachers. I had a situation this year where, as a GSA sponsor, I sent a blind carbon copy email to everyone who indicated interest, all students who indicated interest. And I had a student who I'd never met write back that they were concerned that they wanted me to use a specific name and pronouns, but they hadn't come out to their teachers yet. They came out to a couple because they had a safe space sticker on their door, but they didn't come out to the rest. And the student didn't realize that the teachers were cool with it. But the teachers didn't realize that the students didn't know they were cool with it. And so even just taking a step to ask that information on a survey, it's not necessarily pushing any kind of an agenda. It's just offering representation and inclusion for all students. And then I would also say that as a pansexual woman who was queer questioning for all of high school, I didn't come out till I was 32. Heterosexual people that I know don't tend to feel uncomfortable with that space on a survey. They're very okay with putting the pronoun that they were identified with at birth, and it generally doesn't make them uncomfortable from the people I've interacted with. If there's a level of discomfort, it's usually coming from the LGBTQ youth who are afraid of the repercussions or consequences of being their true selves. And so if you're trying to represent those people in a quiet but inclusive environment, for me, I wouldn't worry about how other students might respond to that, because they are usually more confident in their own pronouns. So I would just give the survey to all students, because we can't make assumptions about anybody, especially based off of appearance or what the name is on the roster. That's not our assumption to make.
That's amazing. It's wonderful. Thank you, Jamie and everybody. I'm going to move on to something that was kind of affected me a bit yesterday, but the next question on the list, and I'll just read it out loud. How should we respond to faculty, staff, and students who feel negatively about LGBTQ plus people? How do we respond? Cindy?
Turn on my sound here. I thought a lot about this one, and I have an answer that might be counterintuitive, but it works. The trick is to come at them soft and come at them listening with questions. So if we can be interested in someone, oh, what's your perspective? And hear them, they soften, they feel heard. Oh, that's the miracle. So if they're coming at us looking for a fight and I put my dukes up, guess what's going to happen? If they come at me trying to fight and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, tell me more. Everybody wants to be heard. So if you are the first person that heard them, they are now drawn to you. So now you are a bit of a personal hero for them because you're the first person that actually cared to hear them. If they're that angry, if they're that, my opinion, if someone has that kind of bias and they need to express it, they've got some other stuff going on. They've got some other needs that haven't been met, being heard, being seen. So if we can listen to them, hear what they have to say, they're going to soften, they're going to calm, and then we ask consent. I would love to tell you my perspective if you're interested. If they say no, okay, it's over, but they now feel good about you, and they're going to come back to you, perhaps like the BMT in Roy's school. And if they are willing to hear what I have to say, they now feel good about me. There's all kinds of stuff I can pull out just about my personal experience. I'm not going to talk about their opinion. I'm not going to talk about their beliefs. I might say that I am bisexual, or I might say my sister has a wife who's transitioning, or I might say, any number of things, but I asked consent first. So all kinds of barriers are down for them, and that can usher in a shift in perspective.
Roy?
Yeah, I think that, I recently had a conversation that I shared with you. And I was asked, why do people who are LGBTQ have to be so out, so loud about it? And I think having those conversations with people who ask questions like that are always can be uncomfortable because it feels like you're confronting. But I think sometimes people ask those questions and they really honestly want to know why people are so loud about their sexuality, and more recently. And I think the answer for me is coming out for me was always a process, and I had to do that in my own time. And I think with the information that younger people have these days, they're more comfortable in coming out at a faster pace, maybe, than we were accustomed to, certainly. And that I don't think people who don't understand our community are still really uncomfortable with us being out and being gay. And I think I won't say confronting those questions, but having a discussion about what it was like for you coming out. And, a lot of times I think I had to, growing up, be uncomfortable with my sexuality, and I kept it hidden. And, I spent a lot of years being uncomfortable with my sexuality. And I think that, at this point, it's all right for, I guess, heterosexuals or people who don't understand to have to deal with some of that discomfort in us being out and being ourselves. It's okay. We don't want any more than anybody else has. But again, I think just having the conversation and being willing to talk about it in those situations where it's really going to make a lot of people skittish and uncomfortable. But we have to be willing to do that.
Jed and then Corey.
I want to just follow up a little bit with what Roy was saying about you know, we gay folks being too out, right? So what I've started doing, Roy, is I make a list of all the way the straight people are out and in our face, okay? Every day of my life as an educator, somebody would say, Jed, do you have a girlfriend? And I would have to say no. That was heterosexuality in my face. Boom, okay? When I see women get engaged and they're flaunting their wedding ring around, oh, look what my husband gave me or my fiance gave me, that's heterosexuality in my face. When a married lady who I knew was married to a man came to school and was pregnant, that was her heterosexuality in my face. Guess what? There was only one way that happened, and your middle school and high school students know it. Here's what I'm trying to say. There is a difference between sex and sexuality, and everybody listening to this needs to know that that is the difference. Sex is what you do with your partner in a physical act in privacy of your home. Sexuality is the way that you display who you love. Heterosexual people do it with wedding rings. They do it. Teachers, every year that I taught, they would call little Timmy over at the playground, say, little Timmy, is little Susie your girlfriend? That's heterosexuality right there on the playground. If you saw a boy and a girl holding hands walking down the hall, it's heterosexuality. Heterosexuality is out just as loud as we are. Nobody cares about it because it's the norm. They don't see it. I wrote down what you said, Jamie. I'm sorry I had to stumble on your name. They can't see the bars of the cage. Oh my gosh, like that is going to go to bed with me tonight, because you know what? We've got to start helping people see the bars that they're putting on the cages of their LGBTQ students. They can't see the forest for the trees, so to speak. And I get wound up when I think about that, because the heterosexual people can't see that it's all around us because they're oblivious to it. So that's why when somebody says, why am I so out? I say, well, why are you so out? And I'm gonna have my list ready. Y'all start making a list.
Corey and then Jamie. Corey, then Jamie.
Yeah, so I think Cindy was spot on, because the way to sometimes we have to understand our way through issues, right? And and sometimes it's just trial and error, right? We know what doesn't work, right? We know that like reason and logic and facts don't work, right? What's the and I think there was something I think Joanne, you shared this with me. If someone has a strong feeling and you present irrefutable facts, they end up with stronger feelings than before. Right. So we know that empathy doesn't work because they can't see themselves. Right. If I am a, white cisgendered male, and then I have the privilege of not being, I'm not actually having to interact with disenfranchised communities. I can go about my entire life without ever interacting with LGBT, with people of color, with with all these other groups. And so I don't have any kind of understanding for it. Why can't you just be like me? Right? Why can't you just, pull yourself up by your bootstraps? Right? Even though I was born on third base, but I'm talking like I hit a triple. But why can't you just, be like me? And because it doesn't take all of this. And so I think that's what, and also, coming out is a continuing process, right? It just keeps happening. It's not an event, it's not a gender reveal party, right? So, I've been coming out since 1991, right? And as I meet new people, I'm still coming out. I mean, every day, this is my watch. This is my Apple Watch, even with the rainbow screen on it. And so everywhere I go, just to let people know, so I don't have to say it all the time.
Jamie, thank you. That's awesome. Jamie?
The bars of the cage is not an original idea. I got that from a book in my critical pedagogy class. I just want to say that first. But I love all of this discussion about like how we are revealing, like, we live in a heteronormative, cis-normative society, and even as simple as thinking about like the literature we represent in our classrooms, Disney movies are very heteronormative, cis-normative, and the toys that kids play with, how we separate gender roles, even if we're talking within the spectrum of male and female, that we tend to ask, or we tend to push male students into reading books about sports and female students into reading books about relationships, or representing relationships in literature. All of that is representative of the heteronormative life. And I think if we're, like Joanne said, if we're aware of ourselves and the society we're living in, it helps us unpeel the layers of the onion that go into the decisions that we make as educators and as people. I also wanted to mention that going along with the idea of coming out, that I forgot what I was going to say. It had to do with heteronormativity, though, that our teachers, we sometimes don't even realize our own biases. And we also sometimes we tend to think, I've noticed a lot that when I came out and became a GSA sponsor, I ended up holding a lot of the emotional labor and support and weight of educating non-LGBT people. And we also need to, as allies, educate ourselves without putting that space or that weight onto our LGBTQ community to educate. Like, if we feel good about it, it's okay, but like, don't put that expectation on somebody that you know, just because they might happen to be wearing a pride flag on their Apple Watch. Like, that doesn't necessarily mean it's their responsibility to explain this to you.
Thank you, Jamie. And all those are wonderful points. And I know we've talked with some people on the panel about like Corey mentioned, coming out is an ongoing process, especially like if you get a new position at a new school. And then, this is my third high school, and the first couple of months was, oh, are you single? I know this teacher down the hallway, or so-and-so. And so that's kind of why, like with Corey's watch, it's like, it's just easier. Look, imagine if you're an adolescent, right? Thank you, Jed. Imagine being in high school and not having all this wisdom that we have here on the panel and all this experience, and just trying to navigate your way through this. I thought we'd just touch real quickly upon maybe some of your experiences in high school, so that teachers that didn't experience going through it as an LGBTQ plus student. I was just going to say, with me, by the time I finished high school, I was clearly suicidal. Thank God I didn't act upon it. You didn't hear this from me, but I skipped class sometimes, and not because I went to party. I went home to cry, just because I had no one to go to. So I didn't know who to go to. There probably were teachers there that I probably could have approached about, but I didn't know. So I would have loved to have had a GSA in my school that I could have knocked on the door of that advisor and just walked in and just cried with that person instead of at home in my bedroom hiding. So anyone else want to add to that? Jamie?
Well, we do have a GSA at my high school, and we have a Twitter page, and this came up. It kind of addresses how do you talk to somebody who's of what you're doing. And I explained to this person, it goes back, I wish you had been a teenager in my high school, Rick. Because I had an adult who said, why would you publish GSA meetings on a GSA Twitter? Why do you even need a Twitter account for your GSA? And couldn't you do this like internally? Why do you need to publish that you exist? And my response is that it's not, the GSA Twitter is not for people who are coming to GSA. It's for people who are afraid to be out, to know that there are people there that can represent them and can advocate for them, so that if they do need a link to a person at school, they know that this exists in case they need it. And I think even I wasn't out in high school. My parents, I overheard a conversation where they were grateful that I wasn't a lesbian and that I had a boyfriend. And then when I came out in my 30s, they were like, oh, we always knew you were gay. No, you didn't. If I had had a person at school, even if I wasn't comfortable with coming out at school, just knowing that there was an atmosphere where I could try to approach acceptance, I think my adolescence would have been different, like you said.
Yeah, thank you. And on that note, Jamie, since you and I are both Gay Straight Alliance, Gender Sexuality Alliance advisors, I was just going to add for those teachers that are in middle school and high school that teach those levels, if you're interested in starting a GSA at your school, really the way I started it really wasn't my idea. I was very fortunate. It was a freshman who he saw the Human Rights Campaign sticker on the bumper of my car in the parking lot, and brave kid came up and asked me if I would start it. If he's watching, I don't think I'll say his first name, Jason. And how we did it was he and I worked together, and then we had Haley, and Haley knows who she is. We worked together, and we put together the bylaws. We Googled other GSAs to kind of come up with how we're going to do our bylaws for a club. And then we presented it to the principal of our school, who presented it to our school board, and the school board ultimately approved it. And we named it Pride Alliance because I don't think they were going to approve a GSA in GSA. I think it was more digestible. We called it Pride Alliance. And it's been that way for about 6 years. Is that kind of what you did, Jamie, or did you do something different?
Well, in high school, I became the president of the GSA, but I told everyone I was the straight part of the GSA as a straight ally. At my high school, it was already kind of established already, and I replaced a sponsor who was there, but it was kind of a dying club. We were struggling to get attendance. And so to improve attendance, we started a GSA Twitter, which the only thing we're allowed to do is publish that we have club meetings. We're not allowed to publish education or anything like that. And then I started sending blind carbon copy emails to students that I thought might be interested in it. And I mentioned blind carbon copying because it doesn't matter if student A comes to a GSA meeting and student B comes to a GSA meeting. I still want to protect their privacy and their confidentiality. So, again, to approach the idea that they might not be ready to join a club, but they'll be aware that there is a place for them if they do approach ready. So to try to revive our club, I've been sending out, if a teacher says, hey, do you know about this person? Or if I hear from students talking, I'll send a blind carbon copy email to the student, just inviting them. And I tell them, if they're not ready and you don't feel comfortable, that's fine. You got Honky here. Just if you need to reach out, there's a person in the building that can talk to you if you need a support.
Thank you. That's amazing. And we could do another 3 hours on this, but unfortunately we're running out of time, which sucks. But you guys are amazing. I just want to bring up, share my screen one more time with you all. Let's see here. And just bring up a couple of things here. So I want to first of all thank Todd Scholl, who's moderating or monitoring, I should say, our Facebook comments. He will have these links available on this slide and all the slides to anyone that wants it. He can drop that in for you. I want to thank Todd Jake and Sherry Lynn East and Colleen O'Connell with the South Carolina Education Association Association, excuse me, for allowing this and helping make this happen. I really appreciate that. These are all links to Time Out Youth Center in Charlotte. Here's Spartanburg, Pride Alliance. Of course, there's a link you can actually get to my email if you want to have any questions to me. Just that link right there. Columbia, South Carolina, Charleston, and then there's a national if you want to find out some more resources for national organizations. And finally, I want to promote our future roundtables. We have 4 more. And it's on our South Carolina Education Association website, and it's on roundtables. Let's see here. We call it the movement, and these are the movement roundtable discussions. There we are. But coming on Wednesday, it's basically every other month. So Wednesday, November 17th, we're going to discuss how to become an anti-racist. Wednesday, January 19th, how are becoming an anti-bigot. And that's where we'll start talking and getting into some religious issues as well. We're going to learn how to better serve our Latinx students in March. And then finally, we're going to talk about honesty in education and how to address critical race theory and have a discussion about that as well. So I'm really, really excited about all the next 4 ones as I am about this amazing, amazing group. Any last words, any last thoughts from anybody? Just goodbye, right? All right, well, thank you all so much, everyone. I really enjoyed it. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and thank you for all of you at home who joined us on Facebook. Take care, guys.
Yay.
All right. So I'm assuming we're not on Facebook anymore. Todd?
It's still recording.
Oh. Hi.
The recording has stopped. The recording has stopped. There you go.
Sorry, it's the first one. Forgive me. I don't have Facebook up, so this is all just seeing you guys.
I was looking at the comments and I didn't see any more video, so I think you were good.
Okay, good.
Hey, we're still live.
We are.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I have it open. We're still live.
Hi, everybody.
Well, hey, everybody. We're still live on Facebook. I see it now. We are. Well, behind the scenes, everybody. This is it. All right, I'm signing off. I will see
All right,
you
guys.
later.
Thank you. See you guys later.
Todd, do you have able to end the stream? Nope. Let's just go.